It Ends With Us movement empowers women to heal from relationship traumas and break generational cycles. We aim to create an ongoing platform for education, collaboration, and awareness, uniting industry experts and other nonprofits to support communities affected by emotional abuse and domestic violence. Together, we are creating a movement where women support women, where we learn to recognize our worth, and where we commit to ensuring that the traumas we experienced stop with us. We are stronger together, and together we can end these cycles. Thank you, everyone, for joining my podcast, Soul Purpose, Healing Beyond Your Scars. Today, we're going to talk about healing and self-love, really the journey, like I said, the journey of healing and how it starts. You know, we go through a lot of things in life, some more traumatic than others, but where do we start? How do we become aware? You know, we need to make sure that we're aware. We need to make sure that we're accepting what's happening in our lives. And then also we have to make sure that we have the ability to change and actually do something about it. So like I said, I was going to have a special guest, and today I have Jenni Noia. She's a mindset and cognitive coach. She's talks about and helps others go through their healing process, learn about self-love in all different ways, not just women and men. But today we're going to talk about healing and how we can get through the next step and really understand why we're going through what we're going through and how we can change that. So welcome, Jenni, to my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So this is all about, today we're going to talk all about healing and self-love and what we're doing to love ourselves and know really our self-worth. And in order to do that, you have to be strong enough. We have to be strong. It's difficult, just like with anything in life. It's hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working out, being healthy. You have to put the work in. You have to put the work in to see results. And that's just with anything, with your job, with everything. So in order to affect change, we have to put the work in. And it's really, you have to be strong enough. You have to also have a clear perception on life. I think that, me being up here, able to talk about healing, talk about my journey, it took a lot of work, and now having a clear perception on life, you look at the life around you, and you look at people going through what they're going through, and it's really mind-boggling and eye-opening to see that, because there's so many people out there going through tough times, whether it is domestic violence or it could be grieving, anything in life. So really today we're going to talk about, I want you to introduce yourself and kind of tell me about what inspired you to take this journey to be a mindset coach, because I kind of, you became a part of my journey too without even knowing it. I think when we go on social media, we follow things, we follow different podcasts, different pages, and you watch the positivity. And when you watch it, it sinks in and you become more aware and more knowledgeable of, okay, this is what's going on. This is why I'm feeling this way. This is how I can heal. This is how I can become stronger. This is how I can become better. So watching you and what you do for your clients it's inspiring, and it's also for a purpose. So we both share a passion to help others. So I wanted to have you as a guest and kind of share with everyone what inspired you to do that.
I love that. Well, thank you for the recognition and everything. And I'm so happy that I inspired you, because as you know, there's not really a lot of people kind of doing the things that we're doing and talking about trauma. And it's very much a silent battle for a lot of people. And it's so sad because, women especially, they really do have to kind of internalize all that. Sometimes they don't feel safe to tell their friends if something's going on because they don't know who they can trust. And they have no idea that they've been a victim of emotional abuse their whole life. There's nowhere. Now there's more information about it out there, but I had no idea. I had no idea what was happening to me. Like you were saying on your first episode, you're doing all the right things. I like to say a lot of women have like good girl syndrome. So it's like we do all the right things. We go to school, we get the good job, the career, like have the kids, get married, whatever. But there's some things that are just missing, and it's going to show up in your anger. It's going to show up in all of your triggers. This is where we hold our trauma, and it's going to be, all of these emotional outbursts, or it's going to show up in people-pleasing tendencies, things like that. But the way I got started on my journey, I have to say I've always been into self-development from the time I knew it was a thing, when I started reading books, like right out of high school. And that's actually how I got diagnosed with ADHD, because there was a book that was all about organization and kind of just like bettering yourself. I forget what it was called now, but there was a whole chapter in that book, and it was all about like how you could have ADHD and these are the symptoms. And so I remember just like reading this on an airplane, crying like, oh my gosh, this is me, my whole life. Like this is everything I've dealt with. And I didn't even know, because technically ADHD is like the hyper little boy, and I never fit that profile. So that was kind of a wake up call after I got my diagnosis. But that was only at the age of 19. I've always been into law of attraction and, manifesting, spirituality, like that kind of stuff, anything self-development. I always just wanted to be better than I was before. I was really essentially trying to be neurotypical with my ADHD brain and not really knowing the difference. It's very hard to undo those beliefs about yourself. So you just are automatically set back and have this whole self-concept on, I'm not enough. I'm not where I need to be. I need to be doing better. So it's, searching for this future version of yourself that will never actually come, because you're not accepting where you are. You're not accepting who you are. And then after I started getting into coaching and getting coached myself, I felt like I understood a whole nother level, a whole nother realm of like what the trauma is of ADHD. It changed my life knowing all that information. Coaching changed my life, like getting coached. I had never been to therapy before. I had never considered myself having complex trauma or anything. I never knew any of that about myself. Like I just was living my life. Yeah, I got in arguments with my husband sometimes. I was stressed out because I felt like people were controlling me in my life, and I didn't know how to get out of it because they make you feel like it's your fault, and you get gaslit and stonewalled and all of the things. So it became just this gigantic wake-up call. And I have to say it was not just coaching, because I noticed there was a lot of people that I trained to be coaches with and everything. And nobody like had that like sole purpose like I did. Like I felt like I just really, it was bigger than me. Like I needed to share this information with the world or whoever would listen, because it's so important and nobody knows. It's like everyone's walking around blind. And I felt like it was just worth it to overcome all of my fears, to risk leaving my job, like taking the giant pay cut, like all of the things, all of the risk factors. I couldn't not do it, because it was like a love for humanity. It was a love for like helping people heal and wanting them to know that there's another way, and you don't have to like have this suffering inside, this internal suffering. And it's not a one and done thing. It's a journey, but
yeah, it's a journey. It definitely is. And I think that, as you see people and you're working with people, you see them grow, and it is a journey. It's not, it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
So yeah, that's definitely, what approach do you like? I mean, we're talking about women in general, but what approach would you take, to coach like women with emotional wounds? Like we all have, like I was saying, physical scars, they heal. But we all go through that emotional, and you don't realize, like you said, in your past, like what these things are going on, how you're feeling. It comes out in triggers. How do you approach women, emotional scars?
Well, I'm a trauma-informed coach, and I know what I'm looking at. I do a lot of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. So that's a lot of thought replacement. But there's so much that are trauma responses, so much. And if we don't know that, if we don't understand our habits and our patterns, then we're never going to get on top of it. Like we could do all of the Reiki in the world. We can do all of the meditation retreats. But if you don't cognitively understand your patterns and what you are doing and how you are also sometimes manipulative and you're also controlling other people. I mean, there's this thing, it's reflection. Everyone's a mirror. So if there's something someone's doing to you, you have that within yourself still. And so it's just a matter of like digging. I'm kind of like a digger. Like I dig and I ask a lot of why questions. I know how to navigate the conversation because that's basically what it is. It's a session and they just spill their guts and they're just telling me all the things. But I'm looking at their thoughts and their emotions and how their emotions are driving their actions, which I'm showing them that. I'm saying like, do you see how you thought this? And then that made you feel rejected. And then you did all of these action steps in your response to rejection, even though you might have not even been rejected. Maybe that person just didn't feel like going out or they were tired and you took it as rejection. And so now you're going to get these same results all the time of you feeling like you're not good enough or, you're not prioritized or something. And so you never can get out of the loop. You can't get out of the loop unless you see what your patterns are and what you're doing. So that's what I focus on a lot. And, gently I let them know like, okay, well, maybe, because we try to stay pretty objective in the mind maps that I do. And so we keep it really factual, not like, well, this person, was talking about me. I just have a feeling that they are. I know that they are. And it gets really tricky with intuition because that's a whole nother thing that I had to like separate the two because intuition and my style of coaching is different. And you have to just really understand your trauma and understand yourself to understand your intuition. And you also have to not be afraid to take the action steps needed to face fear, to confront someone. I mean, most people, they just, some people just internalize all of it and they will never have the courage to confront anyone. They will go their whole life thinking someone hates them maybe and never actually address it with the person because they're afraid to lose them or it's always fear. There's some sort of fear.
There's always fear. That's exactly when you go through life and then you go through the cycle of like going through the same types of relationships or feeling the same way. And then you don't understand like, why is this happening? And when you actually take the time to understand your triggers and what's happening, like that's how that was the start of it all. Like once I hit rock bottom, it's like you have to figure out what caused me to be in this situation again.
Right.
Why did this happen again? So, going into your own inner triggers, figuring out why you reacted this way or what happened, it's key. So, but a lot of people, ego gets in the way, acceptance, you don't understand, you're not accepting it. And then number one thing is actually taking that step to change. Like,
and it's scary.
This is not the life that I want to live, but you got to take that step and get on to the next level. But yeah, you think about all the other factors, whether there's kids involved or you have, your job or like a family. What is this person going to think? What, it's just everything, all these thoughts.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, intuition, you have to listen to it. So a lot of times I would feel it. I would feel like I feel this is not right. I'm not getting treated this right way. This is not the right way. But how do I, actually listen to it? And I have, you don't. If you're not clear, you're not going to listen to your intuition. And that's what gets you into these cycle of
and
trauma.
the number one thing people say when I ask them if they're setting boundaries, first of all, nobody really actually knows how to set a boundary. They don't officially know because we were never taught. But they think because they're vocalizing it to, let's say, their husband, like, no, he knows that I don't want him to treat me this way. I tell him to stop all the time. Okay, well, it's not working because you are still afraid. Like there's still part of you that is afraid to say like, okay, then I'm done. I'm leaving or I'm not going to be treated. I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. Right. So it's really on what you will tolerate. And, you have to be very gentle with yourself because it is very scary to do all of these things. So now I didn't have a situation like you. Obviously, you had like big T trauma, so everybody really knew what was going on with you. Like a lot of my clients that I work with, it's a lot of emotional abuse throughout their life and complex trauma. So it is, just this repetitive, constant, not really feeling good about themselves because of their ADHD, even if they're not diagnosed or were diagnosed as a kid, aren't really treating it now kind of thing. It's all about all the criticism over the years, like the constant criticism. And so it just can really beat you up, and that becomes your internal dialogue. So you will not even see it yourself. You could feel like you're a confident person, but inside you are beating yourself up and you're just really hating yourself. You know, it's a total self-love journey, and it's hard to love yourself. It's very hard. So anyways, back to that. I didn't have what you had. I learned because I fell into coaching. And so I learned it because I just was like, hey, I'm going to join coaching and get organized for my ADHD. And I didn't realize it was psychology based, and what I was actually learning, which is causal coaching and finding the root cause. So I fell into it. Mind you, I was always into self-development. So I had an idea of, what it was like to support yourself, but it was just a huge wake-up call. So I had to really change my whole self, because you can't change anything unless you change yourself. So what does that mean? It means facing fear and saying like, no, I'm not gonna, it was people at my salon that were walking all over my partner and I had no idea, we had no idea. We were just trying to make them happy constantly. And we didn't know
People
that they, people pleasing, we're like, what are we doing wrong? Like, what the heck, And so you can feel like you're going crazy. You feel like you're walking on eggshells with a lot of people in your life. And so I had to get really strong in myself and just say like, God's got to have my back here. I have to just do what I know is right, because I understand my patterns. I'm taking responsibility. You can't force other people to take responsibility. That's for sure. But you can control yourself. And so slowly but surely, everybody who was not really for my highest good exited my life. And so it kind of just happens naturally, like almost a natural flow, a natural process. As long as you can align with the truth of who you are and stay centered in your own truth of like, no, I know how I want to be treated, and that's not acceptable. I'm also willing to take responsibility. I'm not going to treat you that way either, like listening to other people's boundaries, but you have to take a lot of responsibility. And you can change your entire world by changing yourself.
Yeah. And whether it's a work relationship, family relationship.
My mom, I had a lot of beef with my mom. I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this the whole time?
Love relationships.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't matter. But yes, like whatever you're going through, it comes from a root, and it comes from the way that we're wired as children. We both are moms, so like we both, you know how it is. But like you have to teach your children right from wrong, and what's the good and the bad in life. But like controlling it to a certain extent and making your child feel like if they don't do this, this is not good. And
right.
And so like that mentality when you're a child, you don't realize it's happening, raised by your parents, whether whatever culture you're in, our parents only know what they knew then. We only know what we know now. But now in this era, we have so much more education and awareness to like help us through that process. And
it's generational trauma.
Yeah. Generational trauma just kind of goes, and that's where you kind of figure out, why am I people pleasing? Why am I doing these things? And you kind of understand. But I think, again, no matter what, whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a work or a love relationship, friendships, if you don't feel that you're being treated a certain way and you're putting your all into something and I'm doing everything right, what am I doing? It comes down to you and yourself. Like if
I'm doing too much.
Yeah, you're doing too much. And what is it? Why are these people not happy? Why is this person not happy when I'm doing, we're doing everything right as much as we can. But like, again,
why am I seeking their approval so much?
Yes. It's all about approval. And so like, with domestic violence or abuse, it doesn't matter. It's just, I dealt with a lot of emotional abuse too. Obviously when I was young, that was a physical thing that happened, but emotional abuse is what more people go through. And that's what sometimes could cause bad things to happen. But like emotional abuse is really like very common, and people deal with it, but it's why is it happening? And it comes from a root cause of that individual. That individual either went through something in their life. And sometimes when you're in relationships and you realize it and you're accepting yourself and you're like wanting to grow, and that other person doesn't grow with you, that's where you have to change. Same thing with your situation. Like, you have to change something. This is not right. Your friends, this friend is not doing, this is all happening. All these actions are happening because of this. I gotta change something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you realize, like, all right, time. But putting in the work, I think that everybody needs someone, and sometimes you need a stranger. You need a stranger to tell you, like, to see what you do with your clients. Like, you need to go to a stranger and say, like, this is what's happening. Like, my friends tell me this, my mom tells me this, my boyfriend's telling me this, or my husband, like, what is wrong with, like, me? Why am I feeling this way? So that's why I think it's really important. But just kind of going back to understanding the trauma is, like, what do you think the difference between just coping with your trauma and actually healing your trauma? Like, what's the difference?
Coping with trauma can be a lot of ignoring, I could say. There's a lot of different ways people cope with trauma, but are you meaning it like how people are suppressing, how they could be suppressing?
Yeah, like, you go through something traumatic in life, no matter what it is, and people move on. Like what I was just saying, like, you might be growing, you might be changing and evolving in life, but your partner may not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like your partner is staying and not dealing with that trauma and coping with it, and you're growing. So, like, it's like you're healing. And what's the difference? Because there's people who sit there and cope with their trauma, but they're not doing anything to understand why and actually heal from it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different stages.
Oh, yeah. Process. There's some people that their whole life, they won't look into it. They don't want to. It's, it's really just levels of consciousness when you really look at it. And some people are at a different level. It's not like it's bad that they are at a different level. It's just their own journey. And sometimes the hardest thing I would say anyone on a healing journey has to go through is to understand and navigate the relationships in their life, because nobody really, this is new. There's not a lot of people on working on themselves these days, maybe a little bit more now, but you have to accept and you have to lead by example, because there's so many parts of yourself which still wants to change that person and is still not accepting them the way that they are. Now, that doesn't mean you need to accept abuse or anything like that. It's just constantly coming back to yourself and what you will allow and what you won't allow. I will say the difference, though, is when you're healing your trauma, it's messy. It is a messy, messy journey. It's no wonder most people don't want to do it. Like, you're peeling away these parts of yourself. It's like, when you look at trauma from a soul perspective, it's parts work. So it's very much like collecting these fragmented pieces of your soul around wherever the traumatic experiences were that you lost them, which is a lot of, integration work of healing these parts back in with yourself. And it's going to involve a lot of modalities. And some people swear by a couple different modalities, certain like soul retrieval meditations. I work with a brain spotting trauma. She does brain spotting. So it's like you feel it in your body because the body keeps the score. It's a whole nother major aspect of healing trauma is in your physical body, because our body remembers everything. So it's messy. You don't have a finish line. You don't know where you're going. You can look like you're messier than when you started. And I think that's the hardest thing for people that are going through healing their trauma is they're so hard on themselves. They don't understand that they're like training for this massive marathon by healing their trauma within their body. And they think that they should have life figured out, or they should, have healed this by now. Like, there's just so much more like self-doubt and self-sabotaging going on, because we're not doing a good enough job healing now, So it's constantly like this, like exiting that old self-concept and releasing attachment after attachment after attachment. And so when I mean that, letting go of attachments, I mean, you need to let go of what people think of you. Like, it's not serving you to worry about what they're thinking of you. It's killing you inside, and you can't function because you're so worried sometimes. So there's like little things like that those are attachments.
Mhm.
Well, what if they just thought whatever they wanted and everybody could just think I'm a crazy person? Let's just go with that. And that's where you find peace. Like these are the places you start to find peace because you're peeling away these false parts.
Yeah. That's funny. So what kind of, how do you think society's expectations of women make healing harder? Like we have to be, I'm a working mother myself and working single mom and doing all these different things. And like society makes us, we have to be the person, and men have to be the provider. It's like we have to do all these things like what society tells us to do, but that makes it a lot harder. How do you like clear that view of thinking?
You have to choose yourself and understand, how is this life working for me? It's really just looking at your patterns and looking at what your life looks like and how stressed out you are, how overwhelmed you are. Your mind is going to tell you that there's no way out and that this is life and I have to work 9 to 5 or I have to do this. But your body knows different, and that's why it's fighting back usually. This is why so many people are on antidepressants and anxiety medication and they don't know what to do. Women especially, they are cyclical in nature. They're not meant to be hustling like crazy nonstop. They're not meant to be feeling emotionally stable every single day of the month. Like you're cyclical. You have like this biological nature about you that is just more emotional than men. Men run on a 24-hour clock. They're going to have the same patterns like within a 24 hours. Women are on a 28-day cycle. So that's how different it is. So trying to fit into a man's world of working and being, self-sufficient or providing for your family, all of that stuff. Like a lot of women are attaching their self-worth to their productivity levels. And that's the worst thing you can do. And it's so hard to get out of. Even after knowing so much coaching, like there's still little bits of pieces where I find myself attaching to my productivity levels, like, oh, but I didn't like finish cleaning the house today, or I didn't do, make dinner tonight or something. So it's all these little spots in our life where we're supposed to be perfect. So it's a lot of releasing perfectionism.
Yeah. And it's going to come up. I mean, this is natural. We're natural human beings, and then that stuff's going to come up, but it's like, you have to let yourself, pull back and like realize that life is, you could be gone tomorrow. I mean, life is precious. And I feel like people take life for granted because there's so many things going on. They got to do this. They got to do that. You don't have to get the laundry in today.
Yeah, it's like, why? Why do you have to? If that
basket's sitting there, like, just let it be. Like, stop stressing about the little things. And sometimes, if you're in an environment, like I was in an environment with when I was a child, like my mom would stress about these little things that did and still does to this day, because that's how they were wired as children. So like, you got to do this, you got to do that. You don't have to do that. Like, so put the priorities first and organizing your day and doing what you have to do. But like, don't worry about what society has this vision of what a working mom has to be. Or even if you are, even if you're in a situation where the male is the provider and you don't work and you have children, and a lot of these women are afraid to leave their relationships because they don't have the way out. There is a way out. You are worth more than what you think you're worth. And there's so much support out there. Yeah. And so when when we go through life changes and everything's going on, you think like, oh my God, I have nobody's going through what I'm going through. But there's so many people out there. So I think that this is the reason, again, why I'm doing this podcast, why I started my nonprofit, is because so many people don't speak up and there's nowhere to go. And society thinks like we have this we can't talk about things. Like we have to talk about it. We have to talk about what's going on in our mind to be able to see like, why are these things happening in life? So I think it's really important to make sure that you do that. So, I think where it all stems from is the self-love, going back to self-love. And, everyone now, if you think about what does real self-love look like? I mean, you can see social media and think this family is just perfect. And then you hear the next day, oh, this person like did something really bad, or this person, they're going through a divorce, or like you see what's on social media. What's your version? what would you say your version of self-love is like what do we have to do to take that step to love ourselves?
I think you need to choose yourself to love yourself. And I think, so many women have this fixation on like, oh my gosh, should I leave my husband right now? Like he might be a narcissist. I got to look up all this information. And they're just like easily putting themselves back in this victim mentality. Instead, you could just not attach to leaving right now. I mean, unless you're in physical danger, that's a different story. Start with changing yourself. Start with choosing yourself and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to go there tonight. Or I know we're obligated to do this, but I'm going to do this instead. So it's like listening to your body very much like, is this a full body yes? Okay. If it's not, I'm not doing it. My husband's going to have to understand and get over it kind of thing.
Mm.
So it's so much of just choosing yourself. You want to, quit your job and start a new career path. That's choosing yourself. You want to stop signing your kids up for every sport because it's too much and too crazy. That's choosing yourself, so it's like taking care of yourself and, letting go of what the standards are, what society thinks. It's really hard to love yourself. In our society, it's very hard, especially for men too. I coach a lot of men and, it's just very, it feels everything in our brain wants to say you're selfish. You're selfish. You'll even have people tell you in your life that you are selfish when you do start to choose yourself because it's going to seem like you don't care.
Right.
But the reality is you've cared so much your whole life to the point where it's like killing you inside of trying to keep up with expectations that it's not serving you. And so you get to a point when you hit rock bottom when you're like, I don't care. These people need to just understand that I still love them. If I don't love them, they'll know that I don't love them. I won't ever see them again,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just coming back to yourself a lot and loving the parts of yourself that you hate.
Yeah.
That's the shadow work part.
Yeah. And, so many people catch themselves like it's hard. It's not an easy task. Like you have to be able to, set back because you're used to a certain way of people pleasing or doing something, everything for your kids or your family or for your spouse, that you have to look back and say, listen. And that's one thing, like everyone, when you have a strong intuition and you feel a certain way, like listen to it. And really when you say listen to it, don't just listen to it, don't feel fear of guilt or fear of not being accepted or whatever, that you're not going to take that, say, I don't want to do that. Or, what, I'm feeling this way. I don't really want to go. And then if your person wants to not accept that, that's on them. There's something triggering them that gets them crazy or whatever they have to do.
And they have an invitation to go work on themselves if they want to, but a lot of them don't. And that's part of the journey, is really accepting people that they're not all going to go on this self-development journey because and even if they want to, sometimes it's even hard to even admit it to some people if you are in relationships with them, because then they can almost feel like, oh, well, this means that then they're going to be right, and people hate being wrong. There's nothing people hate more than being wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone has to admit, oh yeah, maybe you were right about this, or maybe I should kind of look at my own trauma, or I should self-reflect a little bit more. Like nobody says those things.
No.
Maybe I am jealous.
Yeah.
Nobody says that.
Oh, that's what we need to start saying. Like that's what people
that's where
need
it's
to
safe
start.
in coaching.
Right.
It's completely safe. Like people say everything, it's all safe. It is hard to say certain things to people that and everything, but it's just, I don't know. I'm such a type of person where I'm like, if we can't be real, like I don't want to do the small talk. I was a hairstylist forever. I know how to do small talk like in my sleep. I could do it. I don't want to do it that much. I want to like help you. I know how to help you if you want to receive help.
Right. Yeah. And then people don't really talk about like their feeling. I mean, women are more prone to talking about their feelings. Men, it's very hard to get out. So yeah, if you're not going to be real, it's just, what's the purpose? What's the purpose of you being here on the earth? Like you have to come out of your shell and like work on yourself and figure out what these traumas are, what's making you react this way. Because I can't help we can't help. I figured that too in life and going through all, I can't help someone change their triggers or their traumas or
Right.
deal with that. I can support them, right? And I can guide them. But at the same time, if they don't put in the work, and a lot of times in relationships, it's difficult to coach your spouse or coach your partner when you see these things. If your mindset is stable and the other person isn't, it's very difficult
Once
to
you
do
start
that.
doing this work, it's like having X-ray vision.
Yep.
You start seeing everybody. People can't see themselves. I mean, including us. Like, even though we've done a lot of work, there's still so many parts that I am unaware of within myself that I'm sure other people can see within me. You know, like same with you. Like, there's just, everybody's going to notice things according to their own trauma. And it's basically like we're in this like holographic universe of everyone is really a mirror, and it's reflecting back to you. You know, if you're triggered by someone not changing, let's come back to the self. Like, why do we need for them to be different? You know, like, can we love them for who they are? Are they hurting us? Are they not letting us speak? Because that's a big one. Sometimes, and I had noticed this with my husband, myself, like he, had set a boundary when I first started coaching. I wanted to coach everybody I knew. I'm like, I know what to do, everyone, So he's like, no, that's it. I'm setting a boundary with you. You're not allowed to coach me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, fine, I guess. This probably would be weird if I was like coaching you, because it comes off as like a superior kind of identity. And that's not fun to have anyone do that to you.
No.
So I had to take a step back and be careful what I said. But I also had to be very mindful of when I was shutting down my voice, when I wanted to say something or, help him maybe in a way, or just something that involved me basically, or our life together. I had to kind of override his little no coaching me rule, and was like, I had to say certain things like, well, that doesn't work for me. Like, you better get on board here. We're going to do this together. Like, I'm in this marriage too. We're doing this together. Right. So you can't have anyone come in and shut down your voice just in another way. Like, sometimes that happens, and it's so sneaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens a lot. Manipulation. But I think too, like when you get with in a relationship at a younger age, and you're evolving, you're both evolving a certain way, and you get with someone without even, your mind's maybe not clear, and you don't see all these little things. Then you start to see all these little things, and that's what typically happens. Like, you get with someone thinking that they're this way, and that they're they're great, they love my family, like all these things, and then things start to change. And you see these things start to change, and you're like, okay, well, what can we do to, let's talk about it, and if they don't change, you see yourself stuck in this relationship. And that's where most of the women that come to me for advice, they say like, how do I get out? Like, what advice do you have for me? It's all a journey. Like you said, like you it can't happen right away. You can't just be like, all right, I'm leaving. You have to make sure that you love yourself first before you start making some decisions. But again, like,
if you leave too soon, you're going to repeat the pattern, the cycle.
Right.
A lot of women who go through any kind of abuse like this have an anxious attachment style. Mm-hmm. And so they are codependent. And so they're just going to attach themselves to another boyfriend or husband, or get married too soon, look for those things within that person that they're still lacking within themselves because they never fully healed.
Yep. That's it. That's how it works. So how do you help women overcome the guilt? I would say, like, when they take time for themselves, like, we talk about guilt all the time. I mean, that's how you feel guilty for leaving. You feel guilty for telling this, saying how you actually feel. Like, how do you overcome that guilt?
I tell my clients to follow the guilt, because the guilt is actually good. I think the guilt is God actually saying, like, you're too good for this. Get out of here. Do this instead. People have this really hard time. Like, I even still do, like, with letting go of guilt. If you're a mom, you feel guilty for certain things, for everything, like, there's all sorts of, expectations for wives, moms, women in general. And it's easy to feel guilty. So I always kind of like almost let them know most of the time that guilt's a good sign. Like, acting on that guilt instead of making it a problem. Guilt's never going to drive good actions. So you're going to feel this unconscious guilt all the time. And your actions are going to look really passive aggressive, or they're going to be avoidant. Like, how many times do you see, someone just shutting down, as a trauma response and not speaking or oversharing, over-explaining, like things like that. They just have this common, something that they just need to like fix it. They want to fix it or they want to make it better. It's all suppressing. It's all not looking at your own self. It's not working through the guilt. There's guilt and shame and all this. And for women especially, look at it like a sacred journey. It is something that we need to actually feel deeply within ourselves, allow ourselves to feel it, move through it. I mean, yes, there's the part on like acting on it. Like guilt's probably a good sign there. You might want to like go take that class because that means you're choosing yourself kind of thing by overriding guilt. But there's so much processing that comes along with it. And that can be in the form of, working through it with coaches and therapists, journaling about it, doing your own shadow work, physically feeling that emotion in your body, lots of letting go. Guilt's a big one. It's really, really big. It's hard. It's going to take years. It takes years to get through all of it.
Yeah, it takes years, or like you go through so much, like as far as like, you go through so much in life and you really something bad it's sad, but like when something bad happens and it continues to happen, like at this point in life, like I look at life in a different lens and I'm just like, I not that you don't care, but like you have to live your life.
Yeah.
And that's where people have to kind of pull back and really realize what they're doing and what they're being stressed about. Like, it's just, you feel guilty because you can't make the party that your mom said you have to go to. Like, like that's like, right. It's just these little things that like that I was trained in my mind as a child, like, oh, you have to go do this. You have to do this. And
what are they going to think? What am I going to tell them if you're not there? They're not going to like,
it's constant guilt. So like when you're wired that way, it's like, how do you now rewire your brain? And so same thing when whether you're male or female, when you see a parent who's might be abusive or there's abuse in your household, or you see that, you're either gonna act the same way as an adult, or you're gonna do a whole 360. It just depends. But like what you see and what we learn as children, and this is why my whole purpose of like, it ends with us. Like, how do we train the next generation to not be like that? Like
acknowledging your emotions.
Acknowledging emotions is huge. Like these, especially as having, children, like at a young age is where we have to start, is acknowledge emotions. I'm also, talking, we talk to adults mostly, but like teenagers, young teenagers or in young adults in their 20s,
influenced.
Like they're so influenced.
I feel like our generation, media. I have to say, we're pretty strong. I have to say, like, we're kind of like, I don't care. Like it's a little
It's like our
easier.
mindset's strong, but then we still have to break our generational traumas.
It's because the generational
it's the
trauma,
old school way of doing things. So where our mindset's stronger, where we have that good side of being old school, but then you have that side where you have to break these cycles of all these like guilt and all these things. But nowadays, like children have so much, I mean, in our society, the teenagers and in your young 20s, like you have so much social media and they're not expressing themselves a certain way. And that's a whole issue in itself. And that's where the education and awareness, the more we talk about it in our era, like that's where it can help, parents that are parents in our age, make sure that they don't wire their children that way to think a certain way, feel guilty a certain way. Like let them just live freely, because God created us and all the same, right? So when we're children, we grow a certain way. There's like, we're a vessel. Like we are vessels for our children. We're not here to control them to be just like us. They were brought on this earth to be who they are supposed to be.
And there's a lot of parents in our generation have very high expectations of who they want their kids. They live through their kids, some people,
Because it's just the way that they were trained. So again, like how do we train our minds? And it all comes with awareness. We have to start, figuring out where this comes from and look back and say, like, is this, the best for my child? Because again, I go back to like, I thought I was a good girl. I'm going, because that's what I was embedded in my head. Like, you got to go to school. You got to be a good girl. You got to go to, get good grades, like all these things, get a good job. And, life is not just about your resume on paper. Life is
No.
about really looking into your heart and figuring out the person you are. And a lot of times people don't do that.
Self-concept work is the best work you can do for that because it's all targeted around your beliefs. So we have like over 70,000 thoughts in our mind a day. Now, if they incorporated self-concept into school, that would be amazing, but
Yes,
kids
it's
usually,
not-
I know my kids, if I was like, let's do these self-concept workbooks, they'd be like, oh, I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah, right.
Maybe when they're teens, I can kind of get them to experiment with it, but that's going to show you exactly what you're believing to be true, exactly what you are, identifying with as, like some people really like think their identity is a mom or what you do. Like I wouldn't be allowed to say I'm a coach on there, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. None of that exists in your self-concept. It's purely who you are at your core, like almost at a soul level. Like I'm compassionate, I'm loving, but then there's the beliefs and it makes you kind of identify, well, who taught you those beliefs? Where'd you learn that? Did you learn it in school? Who said that to you before? Your mom, your dad? So it like pinpoints all of this stuff and you realize this is the bully in my mind, that all of these beliefs that I've been hanging on to, and we have the actual power to choose to not believe them anymore. Now we're aware of them, that's what we're thinking, it's not serving us. We can pick new beliefs. So it's constantly revisiting that self-concept because the beliefs are crazy and there's a lot of noise out there.
Right. So what signs do you see like that would suggest someone might benefit from having a self-coach or like taking that next step to? I mean, I feel like everyone benefits from it, but like where do you see like maybe I should do this or what did you call it again? The self-concept?
Self-concept, yeah. I think they're going to have like some traits where they just feel misunderstood. They're going to feel misunderstood. They're going to feel alone. They're going to feel like maybe if they are reaching out to friends, trying to talk to them about it, they're still not able to change anything in their life. They're going all about it in wrong ways. So it's basically assessing your problems and looking at like, how long have I been dealing with this for? What do I want? Why, like, how attached am I willing to like let go of some of my expectations? Because that's the thing too. We have a lot of expectations. Letting go of expectations is one of the hardest things. So you talk about being present, when you talk about mindfulness, so much of that is like, can I be mindful and accepting in this moment if I still have the same amount of money in my bank account right now and it will be like this forever, or my relationship never changes and my spouse treats me this way or still never wants to work on themselves. Can I accept this right now? So it's like, those are all little sneaky controlling expectations that are in our subconscious. And they are really like just proving that no, we're not. We're still trying to get out of the present moment. We don't want to be here. We want to be somewhere else, which is really hard for people to understand because we are conditioned to set goals and vision cast and all of the things, even manifesting. But what are we trying to cover up? So you talk about like the suppressing, and coping with trauma. These are the ways people cope with trauma. They overwork, they drink, they smoke weed, they what do? They basically will do these little trauma responses to like over-explain, to try to fix things constantly. Like I have to let them know because they don't understand my side of the story. So it's really important that like they know this. That's all like trying to mask the trauma of and not getting to the root. It's putting a Band-Aid on it. Like I can't let this be how it is. It needs to be fixed. I need to fix it or I need to make it go away, shove it down. But emotions and trauma, they're like beach balls. So it's like holding a beach ball underwater and holding it. It's going to pop up. It's going to constantly pop up. And that's going to manifest somewhere in your life, whether it's your failed relationships or whether it's physically ailments in your body. It has nowhere to go if you don't heal it.
Right. So what would you say to someone listening who's like scared to start?
I would say you are safe, and as long as you are, reaching out, I would say this too. Okay, number one, if you feel like you need to reach out and get help or just a coach, somebody kind of have like this unbiased opinion on your side to help you with your own reflection, do not ask people in your life and get their idea on like if they think you should hire a coach or, start going to therapy. Like if you want to mention that you're going, that's fine. But you don't need to say, like, I will say that's one thing. Like I used to kind of go over everything with my husband, but when the coaching thing happened, when I first joined my coach's group coaching, it was like $200 a month. And normally I would like tell that to him and say like, hey, is it okay? Do we have a budget? Can we like figure this into the budget? But it just was like, no, he's not going to understand it. He's going to probably say no or something. I'm just going to do it.
What are you going to do that
This is like
for?
an example of choosing myself, you know?
Yeah.
And so, it's things like that where it's like, oh, like I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I just was like, I know I really want this and I don't give a crap what he says. Like I'm doing this because he doesn't have ADHD. I do. I need this for me, whatever.
Right.
So it's things like that. Be very careful of who you are looking to validate your actions and what you can do. And then
sometimes when you think it's your friends, like they don't, again, nobody understands what you're going through, right? So we're all our own person. So like you can ask your friends who you're close to that, this is what I'm thinking. But if you're going to take their opinion and let it then make your thoughts go crazy, like sometimes I tell my friends, like, I'll give you advice, but don't take what I say. Like you do what you feel.
Yeah. That's what I do when I coach. I don't, it's not advice. It's like, I'm asking why I'm taking out all the crap that you heard from other people. We're going to find you in here. Like this is what coaching is. And not all coaching, some coaching is accountability coaching. They do tell you what to do. I don't do that. We're very much like the inner work of like letting go and understanding ourselves. Like every spiritual text out there leads back to know thyself. And that's for a reason because you have to know yourself to achieve anything that you really want in life.
Anything, even in work. Like people who work, they go through their goals every quarter, every month. Like you have to reassess yourself at work when you're in any environment. Same thing with your personal life. And you have to reassess your home, reassess your loved ones. How is life going right now? How do I feel? Is it going the right direction? What can I do to make myself better? And one of them is like, maybe get a self-coach, maybe,
because it's support.
Yeah.
It's
listen to a
podcast.
Listen to like, what can I do to make myself better? And I think, that's where we need to become more aware and no one knows like what's a mindset coach, what's therapy, what's this thing, it's becoming education. I wouldn't have understood my traumas and my triggers if I didn't have someone tell me like, hey, talk about getting all these root things that happened in my past. And then this is why. And I'd be like, oh, it's a light bulb that comes out. And it's just someone else like looking into you and doing the work. And I think that's really important. So, I mean, really the goal to of what I'm doing and in this like path of life is when I was going through different hard things in my life, I didn't know where to go. I mean, I asked my friends again, they weren't going through what I was going through. Everyone thinks, oh, Dana, you're so strong. You went through you've overcame all this, or people think you're such a strong person on the outside, but you don't know what's going on the inside. That's why I said last time, like you can't judge a book by its cover, even though you say, oh, that person's doing really good. They went through all that and they're doing really good. No, you have to get through the root causes. The people that look like they're doing so great in life, you hear of committing suicide, of like, it's just really sad. So like you cannot let yourself go, and you have to put in the work, and it starts here. And if we can help one person overcome their traumas and get through life, like that's all that matters. And so I think that's really important to, that's my passion. And I feel like we share the same passion, and only thing we can do is, help each other. But again, the person has to put in the work. They have to put in the work.
I've noticed too, there's an indicator of kind of knowing if you will like coaching or if you will respond well to it. And that's like when you view yourself before any coaching or therapy, are you a person that likes to help other people? Do people come to you sometimes? Like you've probably had this your whole life, I'm assuming, where people like felt safe with you and told you things and wanted your opinion maybe, or they just, gravitated towards you. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yes,
that's
people tell me their life
yes,
stories.
yes, exactly.
Yes.
It's like, talk to me written on my forehead. I was a hairstylist, so people will tell me everything, and so if you are kind of that person that people feel safe to come to because they believe that you can help them in some way, then you are that person. That's something they feel safe with you because that's really what you actually need inside too.
Mm-hmm.
You need somebody to do that for them. You're so good at that, but who's doing it for you?
Yep.
You're awesome at it. Everybody loves you. They come to you with their problems. You might have to set some boundaries with some of those people that come to you too much with the problems, but you are not doing that for yourself. And that is like just turmoil. It's hard to just never have your own support.
It is. And I feel like finally after, going through everything, that's when I started to say like, you know what, I have to do this. This is for me. I'm doing it for myself as well. What I'm doing is form a nonprofit, get out there, talk about it, talk about what you're going through, whatever you want to do, like take that next step to make yourself like, I put in so much effort for other people that I want to do something for myself, but then also it'll help people in its own way. But
I really feel like that's the true purpose is when you know that you are fed by helping people. Like I would help people for free, before I was making money doing coaching, I was like, can I practice coaching on you? Like I loved it. It gave me energy. It's like when you're doing what you're meant to do, it really does open up this life force energy within you. And so you talk about, the hustle culture. Well, you don't have that when you are aligned with your purpose. So it will never feel, when you are actually aligned with what your soul is supposed to be doing, what you came here to do because of unselfish reasons. I hate to use the word unselfish, but because you are truly wanting to help this person because you know it and you've overcome it to a certain extent. And so you are able to, then you're going to have all the energy in the world to do that. Like you can move mountains.
Yeah. It's really,
it's Look at how fast you threw together the thing. I'm like, Dana, you just threw together a wedding in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, but it goes back to soul purpose. Like what's your soul purpose and really understanding who you are as a person, getting down to your root soul and making sure that you do the work, you put in the work. And that's the purpose. And so I want to thank everyone for joining our podcast. Thank you, Jenni. I appreciate you. It's awesome to hear what you're doing to help others and the work that you put in. It takes time. It takes work, and we all have to put the work in. And that's the goal of what I want to do. And so hopefully you guys took a lot of awareness and education off it. And we're always working on ourselves.
Always. So, always. You're always the number one person. You always have to work on yourself constantly. It's not like, oh, I'm done healing. Now I can heal everyone else. No, you're continuously always healing.
Yep. And we're always learning and growing.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time.